The DBrand Switch to Killswitch case is the company's latest rugged, grippy case, bespoke made with compatibility for the company's line of skins. Now that I've gotten plenty of hours of use out of this case, I'm going to reassemble it on video and review it as I go. Let's begin with the controller grips, since this is the most drastic change the case brings to the Switch 2 experience. The grips slide on the controllers and fit snugly without any latches or adhesive. The key here is to ensure you get all the lips locked around the edges of the controller. If you miss some, you'll know it because they're easy to remove. If you did it right, they're super snug. Considering how little room DBrand had to work with here, it's a miracle that adhesive is not required for the process. If you want them to stay in place even more snugly, you can use the adhesive pads in the box, but this is a huge plus for DBrand, since they're probably one of the few companies that don't require adhesive for the grips. Despite all this, there's plenty of room for the buttons to remain functional, while still providing enough padding in case you drop the controllers. The ergonomic difference these grips deliver cannot be understated. The Switch Joy-Con design was made mostly for a functional aesthetic purpose, while DBrand's grips feel like they were made from human hands gripping a piece of clay. When the case is fully assembled, it represents a sleeker, Steam Deck-like system with more aggressive contours on the handles, which I prefer. This extra contoured part is particularly useful because the right joystick is so low on the Joy-Cons. It makes it easier to shift your hand a bit without feeling like you're going to drop the system or get thumb cramps. That might be the most important part. Also, unlike the Steam Deck, these aren't smooth, slippery plastic, they're nice and textured and give you a solid grip on the system. When the grips are attached, you cannot fit the Joy-Cons into the Switch 2's controller shell. That's fine because the grips are easy to remove, and this controller shell has its own grips anyway. Next, I'll quickly look at the screen protector. The only way this gets easier to install is if someone else does it for you. Absolutely brilliant design on DBrand's part here, and the glass feels nicer than the stock screen with its pre-installed film protector. Huge thumbs up on this one. Now for the system case. This is a semi-rigid rubberized plastic with a little bit of give and bend to it, so it's not like one of those cheapo clear plastic phone cases, but it's also not as soft as a TPU case. A lot of concern in the comments of the unboxing video from the other day was around this thin part at the bottom. DBrand pre-applies adhesive strips to it in order to keep it from moving too much, but they're definitely not required. I used the case without these strips for 2 full days and never felt like it was going to fall off or anything, so I feel confident when they say these are 100% optional. This part of the Switch 2 is super thin like the controller lips, so there's not much room to work with. I left the adhesive on for another 2 days, then took the case off today to see if there was any residue. Thankfully, there is not. This is low-tack adhesive like DBrand says it is. Once the case is on, you'll find perfect cutouts for all the buttons and ports. Every button is easily accessible, except for this little controller sync button, which I'd need a pen or something to press. It's fine by me, as I've never had to press it anyway, but it's worth noting if it bothers you. All the cooling vents are perfectly cut out, and the kickstand works flawlessly, just like there was no case on it at all. DBrand ships the case with an optional kickstand cover that sticks to it, and while I initially didn't think it was very useful, DBrand explained to me that the Switch 2's kickstand is poorly anodized metal and it'll start chipping with regular dock use, so covering it with this strip is a good practice. Obviously, I haven't had the Switch 2 for long enough to test that, but I'll take their word for it, because this is not really a big deal to cover it with. The fully assembled case adds 1 mm to the thickness of the system, and also adds about 120 grams to the weight. That's roughly the weight of 2 pairs of Ray-Ban sunglasses if you need a reference. The only things I didn't like in this kit are the pair of joystick covers. They've got a rough textured grip and add a little bit of height to the joysticks, which is good. I initially liked that feel, but after a few hours of Mario Kart, my thumbs started to feel a little raw. I took them off and found that I like the sticks better without the covers, even if they look nice and complete the aesthetic. I wouldn't say I have baby skin hands, but maybe your thumbs are more tolerant of the texture than mine. Once the case is fully assembled, which actually only takes a few seconds from unboxing to playing, you can clip on the game holder cover with the included strap. The strap itself is well made, and the clip won't come off even if you slide it into a tight bag, which I made sure to test. It's also not going to fall apart if you drop it, thanks to the shell-like design. Plus, the game cards are held firmly in and shouldn't fall out even if you drop the empty shell by itself. When unclipping the shell, you'll just need to tuck it away while you play. It would have been cool to see this thing hang off the top like a hinge, but I don't think that would be very ergonomic. You'd just store a standard case in a bag while playing anyway, so there's no real difference here between this and another type of case that you could stick your system in. Now, let's look at the dock. The dock that ships with the Switch 2 is quite tight and has very little wiggle room for the system. This makes it tough to dock the system in my gaming cabinet since the Switch 2 is bigger than the original Switch. It also makes it nearly impossible to dock the system when there's any kind of case on it. That's especially true since the Killswitch only adds about 1 millimeter to the overall system size. So DBrand came up with this clever little dock adapter that slides into the dock so that you can dock the system onto that adapter instead of in the tight dock. The construction and ventilation design are very similar to the stock dock, allowing the system to properly cool itself. Contrary to early speculation, the dock doesn't actively cool the Switch 2. The fan inside it is just to keep the dock's electronics from overheating. It doesn't actually do anything for the system. If anything, this dock adapter probably helps the Switch 2 stay cooler, since the front of the system is now open for additional heat dissipation. The adapter design also ensures that you don't need to reconfigure your dock. Just slide the adapter in and dock the system. It's plenty stable too, and forcefully pushing the system doesn't result in it falling over. Now, it's a cinch to dock the Switch 2 in my gaming cabinet. I mean, really, I couldn't be happier with this design. I'm planning on testing some other cases for this system and seeing how they work, but based on the designs I've seen so far, this one feels the most complete, and I love the grip so much that I really don't want to use most of the other designs I've seen. Overall, a seriously excellent case that I would buy again if I were to get a second Switch 2. It's a bit more expensive than a generic case you can get from Amazon, but I think the quality difference shows, both in the construction and the ergonomics improvements over just a simple protective case. All of the extra parts of the Ultra Kit are worth the money in my opinion, even if I thought the thumb grips were a little too rough for my liking.